Hello and welcome to Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna and that is Kelly.
What's up, Brianna?
What's up, Kills?
Hey, friend.
So before we get started, we always wanted to remind you of a few things in our description and show notes. You will always find links to resources that we used for research. So if you want to read more, if you want to watch some documentaries.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Documentaries. If you want to just get more information, you will find the links in there. You'll also find links to some resources for things like domestic violence, self-help programs like 12-step programs and stuff, CPS, anti-bullying, suicide hotlines, etc. Those will always be in our description if you need any of those resources. You will also find links to our social media. So if you wanted to follow us and get updates on new episodes and see some memes and funny stuff, have a laugh or two, then check out our social media.
We've been removed from Backpage because Backpage is boring now. So
yeah, all the fun is gone. So are we.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. So also in our description and show notes, you can find links to ways to get some merch and stuff like that. We've got a thread list that has t-shirts and mugs, phone cases, and a bunch of other stuff. Tote bags, towels, I think. Bunch of things.
Oh, perfect beach essentials.
It's summer, y'all. It's hot as shit. And if you wanted smaller things like magnets, condoms, stickers, etc., a note from us, you can check out our Patreon. And if you become a Patreon supporter, you'll also get access to bonus episodes. And we should be recording another bonus episode in the next couple weeks. I have a couple of them ready to go, ready to record.
Yeah, stashed. You're ready to go to bust them out. And then we have some fun and different stuff, right?
Yeah.
Than just...
Yeah, because those, a lot of the times the bonuses we do are just maybe the story didn't have enough details to include at a regular episode, or it's a little bit off topic, or I can't find a letter to fit it in. So yeah. So check out bonus episodes on Patreon, and the links are in our show notes if you want to join. And while we were on that subject, we wanted to say thank you to our new Patreon supporters. We have new patrons: Michelle, Kendra, Kim, Jill, and Shonda.
Michelle, Kendra, Jill, Kim, Chandra.
You're doing great.
Did I fucking do it, dude?
The past couple weeks, you've been smoking way less weed. Not to be weird, but you really have, right?
My intake has gone down.
Dude, that's a notable difference in the last couple weeks.
I've smoked half a bowl today, and it was really early in the morning.
Dude, you're killing it.
Ugh.
I mean, I know the weeds are great, but
yeah,
that's kind of evidence that it's good for your memory.
I could keep this up, and maybe I could be a doctor in the next 6 months.
Oh, right? For sure. You know what? I believe in you. You could do it in 4.
Cool. You know what? Might as well throw in a law degree.
So I think that's kind of pretty much it for the business, right?
Yeah.
You got any special announcements?
I'm still not pregnant, so.
Oh, thank God.
Woo.
I was worried.
Yep. No, I'm ready. Were you still on YouTube Killers?
Yeah. Letter Y, YouTube Killers, part 3. This is 3, right?
Yeah. Who do you got? Who do you have?
Anders Breivik, which is really hard not to call Durs.
It's
right?
totally Durs, yeah.
Do we have any workaholic watchers? Seriously, the whole time in my head, as I'm writing, I'm like Durs, over and over.
Have you noticed they're all from these, is it Swedish? Is it Finland? Or what country is this guy from?
This one's Norway.
That's close.
Yeah, it is a lot of non-Americans that are doing the YouTube murder, but there's plenty of American YouTube murders.
Yeah.
But also when choosing cases, I always factor in how much has it been covered by other shows. So I mean, there are things that maybe instead of doing Elliot Rodger, which would have been kind of a simple, straightforward thing, there's enough people that have done it. Yeah. There's been enough shows. About Elliot Rodger, so let's do something different. So I think that's part of it, why we've got so many European ones. But
And they're all in these like really non-violent countries.
Yes. Yeah, that is interesting
so.
for sure.
Woo.
But it's a definite personality type. Like all of the cases that are covered in YouTube, they have definite similarities of like narcissism and manifestos and political agendas and all sorts of shit.
Agreed.
So anyway, Anders Breivik was born in Oslo on the 13th of February in 1979.
You know what? Just a preface, not everybody needs a voice. You know? Like, not
everyone
needs a
is special enough to really need to get their opinions out there.
Or a whole channel. Like, you don't need a whole, like, okay.
It's funny we're saying this as we're talking into mics, like,
we're
recording a
the
podcast.
Exception, like, obviously.
I feel like I don't really insert a lot of my opinions. I really, really enjoy the shit out of research.
Yeah.
And I think these stories are interesting and the people are fascinating and I don't know. And so it's a little bit different. It's not like you and I are like, listen to our personal stories about ourselves.
Well, I am.
In fact, we're kind of the opposite where we're like, well, I hate talking. I hate when shows go on and on and on and on about themselves. I feel like it's incredibly selfish when you're dealing with really, devastating subject matter,
so
to make it about yourself.
Born in Norway. I'm just kidding. That was my bad. He's born in Norway. Let's go. 4/20/1987. Was I right?
I'm cutting that out.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You made me feel so selfish.
I'm just kidding. It's just... oh, it's so cute.
Oh, man.
Oh, you.
So Anders is the son of a nurse named Wenche Bering. That's how it's spelled. Wenche.
Wenche.
Wenche?
Venche. I don't know.
I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but
Wenche. I like Wenche.
And his father was a civil economist named Jens David Breivik.
Cool.
His father worked and traveled a lot because he was a diplomat for the Norwegian embassy, so he was in London and Paris. Anders spent the first year of his life in London until his parents divorced, and he was only a year old. Super young. That's really quick to have a kid and then just split up right away.
My parents did the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't realize that.
They also got married in Vegas, so who knew?
I was
Who saw that
thinking about
coming?
getting married in Vegas next week, so maybe I should not do that. His father remarried a fellow diplomat and fought for custody of his baby son. But ultimately, Anders' mother won custody and took Anders back to Norway. When he was 4, authorities received 2 reports expressing concern about his mental health, which is super young.
That's unbelievably young.
Yeah. It wasn't just about things happening in the house solely. It was specifically about his behavior. It's really not a good sign.
What could have...
Right. I don't know what was contained in the reports, but I mean, they did an investigation to look into what was going on in the home that was causing this.
Huh.
Part of the investigation into these reports was a psychiatric evaluation of little 4-year-old Anders. One psychologist said that he had a peculiar smile, is how he described it, that reflected a deliberate response to his environment more than his actual emotions. So he was clearly mirroring whatever situation he was in.
What's weird about that? I do that all the time. What the fuck, man?
You just made the craziest face at me.
Yeah, I'm real happy.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It was notable that they believed that he was kind of putting on a show. Like he knew that he had to appear happy at certain times, appear sad, appear whatever it was. It was about fitting in and having the correct response instead of having a genuine emotion reflected on his face,
Yeah, and did he get a second opinion?
Right. Well, apparently there was a couple doctors that looked into it. Yeah, I know.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The investigators were also concerned with how his mother treated him. His mother was actually abused herself as a child, and she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, narcissism, and depression, which all affected her ability to parent her child. So, of course, it's one thing to be diagnosed with those sort of things and be treated for it, but the problem was she wasn't being treated for any of those mental health issues. So it was very much affecting her ability to parent her child. Sometimes she was really neglectful, and other times she was really controlling and disciplinary. The report says that, quote, she sexualized Anders.
Huh?
And I don't know specifically any details about that, but there was some physical abuse and sexual abuse going on. Yeah.
She just like made him real sexy or something like that. I don't know.
Dressed
like,
him up in the best clothes.
Ugh.
Yeah, I really don't know. And maybe it's just another case of being protected because he was a minor, so the reports are sealed.
Sure.
But it is worth noting that there was sexual abuse for sure. So she also hit him and frequently told him that she wished that he were dead. The report also said that she, quote, projects her primitive, aggressive, and sexual fantasies onto him.
You know, I'm going to say good for him for pretending to be happy, because I would have a frown all the
time.
I would look mean. I would look like Ice Cube. Just
mean mug constantly.
Mean mugging all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's just
yeah.
so sad that
Absolutely.
This tiny little kid had to go through that, and that so many kids do.
And then it was he had already gone through it enough to where people started to notice something at 4 years old.
That's so early.
Yeah.
And clearly, I mean, that's just something he could never recover from, you know?
Yeah.
It affected the rest of his life. It just broke his brain. The psychiatrist said that their dynamic was so disturbed that if he grew up in the custody of his mother, the psychiatrist was afraid Anders would have serious psychological and developmental issues. And he was right. The investigation led to Anders being temporarily removed from his mother's care, but I couldn't find a specific amount of time, but apparently she regained custody pretty quickly. And I don't know how that happened, but he went back and lived with her.
Like it says here that the doctor says if he lives with her
right.
any
we know that this is going to happen.
Like, what's the point of getting a whole psychiatric evaluation?
Right. I have no idea how that happened.
That's so weird.
And also, he has a father that's been fighting for custody.
Absolutely.
And lost the battle. So why not send him to live with his father?
Well, temporarily send him to live with his father.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Out.
I don't know what happened.
Huh.
So she regained custody and she remarried and had a daughter with her new husband. Other than the issues with the mother, by all accounts, Anders had an otherwise normal kind of middle-class upbringing. He also spent part of the time with his father and stepmother in France. So if he was on break from school or whatever, he would go stay with them. Anders was a really intelligent kid. He was a dedicated student. People said that he performed really well in his classes, got good grades and everything. He was also a really strong kid. And classmates say that he often defended other children that were being bullied.
Aw.
I know. For some reason that seems out of character. I would think that it would be the opposite, that he would be the bully. But everybody said that he stuck up for kids, you know?
That's awesome.
Since his teenage years, Anders spent a lot of time working out. And he even started using anabolic steroids.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. His mother's narcissism clearly rubbed off on him, and he was really preoccupied with his looks and really obsessed with appearing strong and being big and muscular.
Maybe so you don't get picked on or bullied and
it might
you
be.
don't become a victim, maybe? Or you
exactly. Like the kind of young childhood trauma of the abuse
Yeah.
might have had a factor where he's like, well, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to stick up for people and I'm going to never be a victim again. So I can be big and...
You assume the role of protector, so you got to be that, you know, big, large. That's crazy.
Yeah. As a teenager, he became a lot more rebellious, of course. Normal. But eventually, he dropped out of high school. He started hanging out in hip-hop clubs in Oslo, and he became a graffiti artist.
Oh, my God. He's so cool for like all of I got a vibe with most of them in the beginning, and
he's defending,
it sounds
kids
real
from bullies. He's doing
similar.
graffiti,
Yeah.
hanging out in hip hop clubs.
Totally. I was gonna say too, when I was younger, I did bully kids. Same thing, abuse, but I did bully kids. But then it did become a champion of like the underdog or like just the person that nobody, just the victims. Yeah, I can see how there's like a switch too, but I also had help getting that switch, but he didn't, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's definitely a big problem. He never really got the help that he needed.
Back to the hip hop.
So he took graffiti a lot more seriously than his friends that were in the scene. He was super serious about it, constantly working on his art, constantly tagging things, and he was caught a ton of times by the police. So he was ordered to pay a bunch of fines. He was arrested. He was, spent a little bit of time in jail and all that kind of stuff. And officials had to contact his parents on multiple occasions. In 1995, when he was 16 years old, he was caught spray painting again, and his father decided to stop speaking to him over it. He was so upset that he wasn't learning his lesson, that he wasn't stopping this behavior.
Over some art?
Yeah, doesn't make sense to me. However, I've saw conflicting reports, mostly the source coming from Anders' dad, saying that Anders actually stopped speaking to his father around this time. But it really is just kind of one person's word against another.
Yeah.
But either way, the only thing we know was that it was about the time that he was really getting in trouble with the police, where they had a falling out. And we know that they never really reconciled. They never started talking again.
But Dad, I did your name.
Right? It's just Dad with a heart and an arrow through it. So in his teens, Anders began criticizing his parents' political views, and he was lashing out at his mother specifically for, in his opinion, being a moderate feminist.
That's what he's lashing out about.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So, he generally, of course, I think just didn't like liberalism and feminism. So if his parents fit into those categories, that's what he was getting upset about.
And you used to get, as a kid, you just get more heated and more passionate about everything.
Right.
Really.
I feel like everything feels really intense when you're a teenager.
Absolutely. Breakups, failing a test.
Because it's just the very first times that it's happening.
Yeah.
And then once you're, a little bit older, you're like, oh, well, I've been through this before.
I survived.
We've had a different opinion. We can just talk it out or just not talk about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a teenager, it's like, my mom doesn't agree with me, so we have to just be at odds about it, right?
Parents just don't understand.
They don't. I learned that somewhere. So Norway had a conscription, or like in the US, a draft. So it required that Anders report for military service. But the Norwegian army conducts, of course, a vetting process to let people into the army, and Anders was deemed unfit for service, although I couldn't find a specific report of why. But, we can assume that some of his personality traits were kind of coming out. Yeah. Or we can also assume that his criminal record was probably a factor in that. So,
yeah.
Either way, he actually seemed like he would have liked to have joined the military, but they would not let him. People also said that he had an extremely large ego and was beginning to get pretty narcissistic at this point. In his early 20s, he had plastic surgery. Your jaw just dropped.
It's just so weird because our idea of like people who like hip hop and graffiti artists, like I just can't imagine someone like jumping down to like spray paint a train and be like, oh, my nose, like my rhinoplasty, don't want to fuck it up. Like I just can't imagine that for some reason. It just
it doesn't really match. And the other thing that I was thinking when I saw that was that it's so uncommon for men to get plastic surgery. So I looked up the statistics because, I'm a fucking dork. And only...
Loser. No, I'm just kidding.
I love statistics.
Give me the stats.
So of all plastic surgery patients, 8% are male. So it is pretty odd. In my mind, I was like, yeah, there are barely any men. And I was right. So...
is it odd? Because look at our standards. Our beauty standards?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, what I meant was it is odd that Anders had plastic surgery.
Okay.
It's very odd for a male.
A man, yeah.
It's uncommon. I
Okay.
shouldn't say odd. It's uncommon.
Okay.
Statistically.
Yeah, no, really, though.
Yeah. But definitely not odd that women would want to get plastic surgery more.
Did
That's
you-
definitely not what I meant at all.
Did you see a before and after? Like, was it good? Or...
No. But
How
I
was
should
the
look
work?
that up. So he had plastic surgery on his chin, his nose, and his forehead. And he was really happy with the results. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
There seemed to be a couple reasons why he would get plastic surgery. Part of it was that people say he wanted to become a model around this time, that he had aspirations to get into the modeling game. But the other reason was that he wanted to have more Aryan-looking features. So we see some of his political beliefs and some of the gnarliness and stuff manifesting itself around this time.
So he's going for the exotic look.
So in 2002, at the age of 23, Anders decided that he wanted to commit a terrorist attack. And he began a 9-year plan to finance all the supplies to do so.
Like a Kickstarter? Or...
Right.
I don't... Fuck, how do you even ask, like... Or not even ask. What do you just sell? You just sell all your shit? And
You
you're like,
sell
this
your
is-
butthole, like
Okay.
a lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Noted.
So he founded his own computer programming company while he was still working his day job in customer service. He claims that his company grew to 6 employees and that he had several offshore bank accounts to manage all his profits. Like, he definitely inflated his success. So he claimed also that he made his first million within a year of starting the company. So by the time he was 24, he said that his brand new business had made him a millionaire.
Liar.
Right.
You know what's better than terrorism? More plastic surgery. Could have ended right here. Just
The company was later declared bankrupt, and his business was reported for breaking the law, although I don't know what law that was. I couldn't find information. So he was brought up on some sort of charges related to his business. Anders had no choice at this point but to move back in with his mother because he had no money. And he kind of moved home with his tail between his legs. You know, his business had failed, he had no money, and he had to come back to his abuser. Like, let's not forget that. When he moved back in with his mom, this is when he started to really noticeably start struggling with his mental health. So the failure of his business and moving home kind of sent Anders into this isolation and really deep depression. He rarely left the house, and he just stayed inside and mostly played video games. He also began wearing a face mask to protect himself from germs. And not only did people observe him just wearing this, he would wear it at home, in the house where he's not out in public. He's just there with his mom.
like the nurse mask you're talking about?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a completely different face mask, honestly.
Yeah, I don't really know. What's the name for a nurse mask? I know there's a term for it, but
Yeah.
I just,
Face mask.
yeah, I don't know.
And isn't that so other people don't really get like your germs? Or I guess so you're not sucking in people's
Yeah,
air.
so you're not breathing in. But normally
But it
it's only in
penetrates.
public because it's only you.
Yeah, Universal Studios.
In May 2009, he founded a farming company that he called Breivik Geofarm, which of course is super narcissistic, naming that company after yourself.
Mm-hmm.
He described his business as a sole proprietorship set to cultivate vegetables, melons, roots, and tubers. Much later, of course, it was revealed that the company was really simply a cover that allowed him to legally obtain a large amount of fertilizer and chemicals and stuff like that that you would make a bomb with.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
With a farming front. It sounded so good. I'm like,
Right?
I'm a tuber kind of girl, you know? Tubers and roots. This sounds like a dream.
I know you're all about that tuber life.
Yeah, tube life?
He had thought this plan out pretty well and wanted to buy all of these supplies over a long period of time. And having this business allowed him the opportunity to kind of slowly accumulate these supplies under this, you know, front of the business. Not only that.
So there's no red flags, right? Like, you're not going to be knocking up, like, the government's not going to come on, knock on your door or anything like that because they're like, oh, someone bought 1,000 pounds or whatever gallons of,
yeah,
you know.
You're able to fly under the radar because you're spreading it out over a long period of time, and you're also legally obtaining it through your business.
Yeah, you're not doing anything wrong.
You're not just a random civilian buying a ton of fertilizer at one time.
The tubers need fertilizer.
Constantly. Just 2 bags at a time for the next 3 years. So let's get a little bit into some of his beliefs and the kind of political progression of Anders Breivik. First of all, he referred to himself as a senior officer of the Knights Templar.
We were just talking about Game of Thrones, right? I was like, that is that is totally the Night's Watch, right? I just...
But I mean, what really was happening was that he was completely making everything up. He was the only person involved in this fake group that he had said he was a part of. He claimed that the organization he was in was founded in 2002 with representatives from 10 European countries. But there's no evidence that any of this was real. According to him, the organization had uniforms, medals, but all of this was stuff that he made up.
First, you got to dream it.
Yes, and then you got to be it.
I would say do it, but yeah, be it. Any of that stuff. He could have just put this into place. Like, he seems like he half did stuff as like a front, you know?
Well, he did kind of do it for real, except for nobody else followed him.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is like
it wasn't
he
popular.
made himself a commander's uniform. Like, he really did, and
no way.
He took pictures in it. It had medals that were unique to his thing that he made up, his fake organization, and he put it into action. Maybe? It's just that he was literally the only person following it.
Do you think it's just pictures for his portfolio?
Right,
his modeling
it's just
portfolio.
Headshots.
Yeah.
So he claimed that his role within this fictitious organization was that he was chosen to write their manifesto. He was supposedly the voice of this organization.
If anyone thinks they're chosen, then that's when
the word chosen's never positive.
Like, I gotta back up.
Just slowly fade backwards into the fog. Yeah. It would be really heavily debated later on whether this was all a true delusion that he really believed in, or if he was fully aware that he was making up lies, but he was simply being dishonest to kind of inflate his importance. We really can't tell which was the case.
He sounds like a just a repetitive liar. What's that called? Like
a pathological liar.
Pathological liar.
Yeah, so he makes up one lie and then he has to double down on that and lean into it. So yeah, I don't know if he really believed that he had a following, that there were other people in the organization, or if he was just making shit up and going with it.
Just going the secret route.
Right. Trying to manifest that shit. He vision boarded the fuck out of that uniform.
I would love to see his vision board. It's just plastic surgery.
Right?
It's Justin Bieber everywhere.
So in the manifesto that he wrote, he actually interviews himself kind of as if he was a very well-recognized kind of celebrity figure.
He's asking himself questions?
Yeah. Yeah.
And does he change the voice?
You know, I don't know. He basically answers everything as if someone was asking him, like people wanted to know.
Well, I did this and I wanted to do this and okay, that's crazy.
But the answers that he gives to his own kind of questions made it clear that he believed he was a famous political hero who everyone kind of universally recognizes and adores. He made up multiple stories of how he was harassed by Muslims on numerous occasions.
It's too specific. I don't believe it. It's like, what?
Well, the other thing is people that knew him in real life, even though he kind of spouted off these anti-Muslim things, people said that he really had a lot of Muslim friends. Like, he had a handful of friends that were Muslim that he never seemed to have a problem with. And he also, the people that knew him, never had any knowledge of this kind of harassment happening. Like, if you had an incident with someone, you would tell your friends.
Yeah.
You would say, like, oh man, this dude fucked with me, this kind of thing happened, or whatever. But he never told his stories to any of the people in his real life. They're only accounts that were in the manifesto.
And especially if you're all jacked up on steroids and you're the protector, just like, you know, the anti-bully. How are you going to get bullied?
It doesn't make sense, any of it. It's clear that they were either lies or delusions, basically.
Just to fund his extremist thought or whatever.
Yeah, to kind of
back it up.
Yeah, give it some sort of validity.
Yeah.
The manifesto claims that the country is at war with Muslims and multiculturalism, and that the attack that he planned to carry out is supposed to be a wake-up call for Norway to kind of fight these things. He called Islam, quote, cultural Marxism, the enemy, and the manifesto says that all Muslims need to be deported from Europe. The manifesto explains how he wanted to punish politicians that encouraged multiculturalism, specifically the Labour Party was his biggest enemy. His ultimate goal seemed to be to build like a Christian conservative state where women are subservient and can't hold male jobs or kind of pretty much any job, and everyone is pretty much white Christian. Anders blamed feminism for creating a European, quote, cultural suicide.
Are these YouTube videos still up? Are these YouTube videos, or is it just him talking, preaching on the street?
This is his manifesto.
Oh, this is manifesto. Sorry. I want to comment on it online in a public forum.
One of the other things that he wanted to do in his ideal world was to open up clinics to breed more pure children. And the plan would be to raise those kids communally as a state and no longer have a family system.
This is it's just very extreme, and I just don't get, like, who needs that many white children around? I just don't. That's
the best point I've ever heard anyone make. So you can see, I mean, these kind of views are not... They're not that popular, of course.
No.
And they're not very universal. A lot of, like, who would back this? Who gets behind this? He was definitely a fringe outliner, you know.
It's just funny to me that people that dislike Muslims the most and you know, have that thing of terrorism and stuff like that are the ones that commit domestic terrorism to fight this terrorism. It just doesn't.
It's fucking crazy.
It makes no.
Yeah, there's no logic there. Yeah. But of course, because his opinions were not that popular, he couldn't really get anybody to read his manifesto. Like, not just believe in it, but just even read it. Because you hear the guy talk, you get one inkling of what he's about, and you're like, no, not for me.
God, because the other guy that we were just talking
there
about,
was followers.
Like, what? There are more followers than, like, just memoirs or just anything. Not memoirs, but what's that called? Like eulogy, any type of remembrance things on any of the that's just crazy to me. So thank goodness this guy isn't that popular.
That is reassuring, because if you definitely if you're preaching ethnic cleansing and then you've got some followers, we've got some problems.
Especially if you got some bomb ass plastics. There's a lot of nations that will follow people blindly because they are beautiful. You know, we are America true. Specifically. You know, we fuck there's a reason why the Kardashians are top. We are, and we love it, you know. But yeah. I'm glad he wasn't like a hero of some people.
Yes, yeah, that is a relief that there weren't a bunch of people just like believing in this bullshit
and carrying on a legacy after anything happens.
Yeah. So of course he couldn't get people to read his manifesto, And even though he believed, of course, that his writings should be these kind of highly respected pieces of political literature, so he felt like he had to find a way to kind of market this manifesto and get it out there. So he tried to get involved in the extremist internet community. And of course, the internet is kind of, I like the term that I heard someone use, it's just an echo chamber. So if you're seeking out these kind of political views, if you're doing a Google search, for example, you're going to find chat rooms that have people that do have similar views.
Yeah.
Maybe not the exact kind of stuff that he's preaching in the manifesto, but at least sympathizers or some sort of similar mindset.
4chan.
Right? So he was finding a certain degree of people that were at least on board a little bit, you know? So Anders probably kind of truly believed that he had a little bit more support or could get more support than he actually could, you know? Or that maybe a higher percentage of people had similar beliefs to him.
Like, dude, there's 7 people in the chat room.
Right.
Calm down.
Yeah, since that's all he was running into, because he was seeking it out, he probably felt pretty justified in his beliefs and felt like more confident that he could get some followers.
One was enough for him.
Right? So, however, one of the problems that he did run into in these communities was that there, of course, are always some figureheads or whatnot, leaders of these kind of communities. And he looked up to and respected some of these anti-jihadist internet people. But none of his heroes responded to his interactions, which really devastated him. So even though he could kind of interact with the lay people that were in this sort of community, anybody that was, you know, a published author or that was a leader of a group was kind of ignoring him, which really fucked with his confidence.
You're cool to some people. You're not that cool to the coolest, you know,
right.
in your eyes.
Yeah, it seemed like the people that were looked up to by the community, he couldn't really get any respect or acknowledgement from them, and which really fucked with him. So during this time, kind of as a side note, it's not really that great of a segue, but one of the things he did was he was using video games like Call of Duty, Modern Warfare as training simulations. That's what he was calling them. So, of course, you know, we know that he's kind of been planning this attack for a while. We know that he's getting bomb supplies and whatnot. But he's also using video games to kind of get used to the idea or get used to the experience of shooting a lot of people.
Like a simulation of some type,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Training videos. Just kind of trying to get his head in that space.
Go to a gun range.
Don't go to a gun range.
Don't go to a gun range, but okay, you're right. But I was like, you could look at a TV screen and just press some buttons, and the instant you hear a gun or something like that, the sound is gonna freak you out.
It's totally different.
It's completely different. If you're really serious about it, you know, you're lying and doing everything. So
he's a half-assed terrorist.
Half-assed terrorist, man.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it was worth pointing out because to him, it was like this intense training that he was doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just like, oh, I'm just kind of getting used to this.
Yeah.
No, it's like, oh, I've got this training to do. I got to put in X amount of hours so I can learn this or I can get good at this. And it's like, it's not fucking real. It's a game for children.
He's like, Mom, I can't have dinner. I gotta get back to my training.
Right?
Like,
and it's like, I'm an adult. I love video games as much as the next person. I spend a lot of time playing video games, going to arcades and shit. However, I'm never going to look at it like this is training for real life.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And even with things, it's when people twist things that we like that people are gonna be like, oh, it's the video games that taught him. It's like, no, he used this tool when this tool isn't gonna simulate anything. Like it might be like, okay, here I am shooting something, but you're not even close to that. So
no.
I hope video games didn't get blamed at the end.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, he's such an extremist, it would be hard to Yeah. In early May of 2011, he moved to a remote farmhouse to kind of finish his preparation It was like the last phase of getting ready for the attack he wanted to do. So he was doing things like completing his manifesto, he was prepping his weapons, he was finalizing plans for exactly how the attack would be carried out, and also assembling the bomb that he had bought all the supplies for.
Does he have experience in explosives?
I don't think so.
Outside of the fertilizer and
Nope.
stuff? Okay, all right. This is going to go well.
So he planned to carry out a 2-part attack. First would be a bombing, and then would be a mass shooting. And the mass shooting was supposed to take place at a camp for Labor Party kids. So there was this small island called Utoya that hosted this annual summer camp called Workers' Youth League. And it was specifically for a lot of children of powerful Labor Party members and other children that had decided to be a part of the Labor Party. Anders chose Utoya as a target because instead of attacking Muslims or any sort of minority group that he saw as that specific threat to the country, he actually wanted to attack kind of the future liberals, the future Labor Party members. And he thought that this would have a long-term effect on the party itself.
Yeah, and you want to attack like the heart and soul of the sympathizers, you know?
Yeah, he thought that this would be, really an assault on the diversification movement because this was the people that accepted it and encouraged it. He also knew that a lot of the kids on this island specifically were likely to become these second-generation politicians and a lot of high-powered Labor Party members because they were young, they were children of, people that were already in politics. So, this would be the future Bush children or whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he thought that this would kind of cut the party off at the knees, kind of, by crippling the high-powered members of the party. So
we know that killing people isn't the same thing as killing ideas, and wouldn't that just strengthen?
Well,
I'm like, where does he think about this?
Yeah, no. And that's the same thing with any sort of mass attack.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oftentimes there is an equal and opposite reaction, as the saying goes, I
mean, exactly the anti-Muslim is because there's attacks like this. Like,
right.
Where they blame, like 9/11 or whatever crazy terrorism attacks, that's, sorry.
Yeah. No, I totally.
It's so frustrating sometimes. You're like, what?
To have people have no logic.
No logic. It's like you're mad.
You're really not thinking this through. Nobody's going to be on your side. They're going to feel so upset by this happening that they're like, we need to make sure that we fight against anti-Muslims or anti-diversification.
Stop. Yeah, it'll never stop, and it's never the idea is going to go from generation to generation because people are going to share those stories and you lose family members. It's just sad. The hypocrisy is really sad.
Yeah.
Hip-hop hypocrisy.
The other thing that Anders really wanted to do was to specifically attack the Norwegian prime minister. His ideal scenario would be that he would handcuff the prime minister and make him kneel and read a statement about how he had betrayed Norway. Then he would film himself beheading him and then put it on YouTube. That was his ideal situation.
And if everything goes right.
Yes, exactly. Of course, the plan, that he was prepping for, it's a lot more difficult to get access to a prime minister than it is to get access to the general public, So that was kind of his ideal situation, his goal, but, that was just much harder to attain or much harder to do. A few months before he carried out the attacks, he went to visit his former stepmom, who had since split from his dad. So he still hadn't talked to his dad. They still had no contact, but he went to visit her. He told his stepmom that very soon he was going to do something extraordinary that would make his father very proud. He didn't really give her any details, but he let her know that he was planning something pretty big.
He's going to college.
Right?
I want a barbecue.
So, on July 22nd, 2011, 32-year-old Anders Breivik began to carry out his attack. He began his day by taking a combination of ephedrine, caffeine, and aspirin.
For
Breakfast
a headache?
of champions.
Yeah.
I don't know. He
No.
was just trying to amp himself up, get
Right
in the zone, slap his face a few times.
Maybe he's on a diet.
Maybe.
Fen dragon. Yeah.
So about 6 hours before the attack began, at approximately 10 a.m., he uploaded a 12-minute video to YouTube detailing his views.
Too long.
I know, I tune out after maybe 30 seconds of a video.
Even makeup videos. I'm like, you gotta wrap
Even
this
shit that I'm
up.
interested in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep. So the video was titled Knights Templar 2083 Movie Trailer. The video said that the Muslim invasion was about to happen, and it included this animation that depicted Islam as a Trojan horse in Europe. In the video, he also encourages violence against leftists and Muslims. He concludes the video by saying, quote, "Celebrate us, the martyrs of the conservative revolution, for we will soon dine in the kingdom of heaven." He sounds like a preacher.
Yeah, definitely. He's very religious, and I guess this is why religion is always tied to something real scary. I just don't get it.
So he then, after the video, posts a series of bizarre photos of himself in different outfits.
Fucking portfolio, dude.
Right. So he posted one in his Knights Templar uniform, one in Freemason regalia, another one in this biohazard suit with him prepping ammunition, and the last one was of himself in this regular, just dressy outfit, like something that you would go out to a nice dinner, just a regular suit. And he captioned it, "We must look our best before the shoot."
So he's the Knights Templar thing, right? A suit.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other?
Freemason and biohazard.
I don't know what Freemason looks like. I know biohazard.
I can't picture it. I think it's robes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Knights Templar has a big cross on it. And it's knights. Creepy.
Very creepy.
Where's his mom just knocking on the door? Oh, he's in the house. He's in like the farmhouse.
I found conflicting sources for that too. There was some sources that said he came from his mom's house that day, and another couple of them that said that he came from the farmhouse. Right. And I think he was building the bomb at the farmhouse, so it makes sense that he would have to be there at some point to pick up, the explosives. Mm-hmm. But I'm not positive where he was at when he was doing the photo shoot.
Huh.
Yeah. So he also explains in his manifesto that if you are photographed, you should use a professional photographer and a makeup artist. And I guess what was behind it was just kind of putting the best images forward of your political party or whatever, of your organization. So you're always looking your best and representing the organization at its best. I don't know. But I'm just kind of extracting that from what he said.
Was he like a do-it-all type? Was he the photographer?
Right.
And he did his own makeup?
So even though he said that in the manifesto, I don't think he did on this morning, because there was no photographer that came forward that said that they took the pictures or anything. So it was just him.
Oh, yeah, you're fucked if you say you were there.
Right?
Right? I guess no one would say they were
like,
there.
oh, it didn't strike me as strange, all these outfits. Yeah. So I don't know. He didn't use a photographer that we know of, but he did recommend it as just part of looking your best for the party.
Thanks for the business advice.
Right?
Noted, Brianna. We got to get our makeup artist.
And photographer. Yeah. We do need a makeup artist.
Do porn directors count?
They do.
I'm down. They're actually way better most of the
time. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course. They get the angles, And
you need those angles.
Yeah.
For sure.
The tough shots.
One of the other things that he said was that even though it's a little gay, quotes, you should always wear makeup in photos because it would make you look your best. So he categorized like this kind of vanity as gay. That's according to him. However, he was all for it.
If it's gay to look your best, then I'm not gay at all. So I look like shit all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's... You know what? This is the first time we've heard gay in this story, though, and I'm surprised.
Yeah, you would think that would come out earlier. It
Yeah.
usually goes along with all the other things
Religion
he listed.
And,
I know.
yeah, plastic shirt. No, I'm just kidding.
So before leaving home for the day to begin his attacks, he finished kind of the last touches on his manifesto. He titled it 2083, A European Declaration of Independence, and he signed it Andrew Berwick, which is actually the kind of English version of his own name. And it's unclear why he would do this, but it's worth kind of pointing out. It's odd. After finishing the final touches, he emailed out his 1,500-page manifesto to nearly 6,000 people.
Did he put one word on one page?
No.
Oh, it's full?
It's full pages, and although, people, the officials that have actually read it have said that it's very repetitive,
yeah,
it was a full 1,500 pages.
Remind me to start ephedrine, caffeine, and aspirin when I start
We'll
college
get so
again.
much shit done.
Yeah, 1,500 pages.
That needs to be our new diet for sure. I'll be so productive. We'll put out like 7 episodes a week. So he emailed it out, thousands of people, and these were people that he specifically thought could be potential followers. I have no idea where he got this list from. That's a shit ton of people. So I don't know where all the names come from, but he emailed it out to everyone.
He started his own computer program, right? Or his own computer company?
Yeah, it could have been some sort of code that he had written to gather information. Yeah, I don't know. So he believed that after the attack, his manifesto would gain such a following that the public would implement his plans that he laid out in there, and also that his new followers would actually free him from prison. So he anticipated that he would get caught, but he thought that his ideas would spread and be so popular that he would be seen as a hero and freed. Yeah.
Yeah, it took Nelson Mandela like 50 years to be freed, man.
But it's going to work out well for Anders Breivik, for sure. So this attack was, of course, specifically supposed to bring attention to the manifesto, like I said earlier. I mean, the attack was kind of a straight-up marketing scheme. And he really believed that it needed to be seen countrywide. Like, once people read the manifesto, they would come to their senses about what was wrong with Norway. Like, he was the person that needed to just get it read, and immediately people would understand and follow it. Once he put out all the videos and pictures and manifesto, he left the house. And it took him 2.5 hours to drive 100 miles from his remote farmhouse to Oslo in this explosive-filled van. He parked the van with the car bomb in it in front of a block of government buildings, and it was directly in front of the Prime Minister's office. And the Prime Minister at the time was the leader of the Labour Party, so this was really his main target. So he set the timer on the bomb and then left the van there and fled the scene.
Like a Timothy McVeigh type.
Exactly. This attack actually draws a lot of comparisons to Timothy McVeigh.
Children were a huge
right.
target too, right? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of people, like, whenever you see this attack reported on by an American, you know what I mean? Because, of course, there's a lot of European media outlets and whatnot that have covered this, of course. But whenever it's an American, they draw that parallel. And they're like, this is Norway's Timothy McVeigh. This is, that's really what it ended up being. So while the van was there was a few people that noticed this suspicious vehicle. There was a receptionist that was at the front that had a direct view that thought it was suspicious. And other people that walked by and other people that worked in the building said that it looked out of place. And on top of that, they could tell that the back of the van was sagging, like something really heavy was in it. But before they even got a chance to maybe get a security officer to look at it or really have any action taken about this suspicion, the bomb exploded.
No.
Yeah. At approximately 3:30 in the afternoon, and it was kind of rush hour, there was a ton of people walking around, there was a ton of people working. The bomb went off in this busy street. 8 people were killed in the blast, and a lot of others were injured. And there's footage of immediately after the explosion. You can see that there's a lot of people there. Part of the bombing was that Anders was banking on the fact that since it was so extremely unusual to have violence in Norway, that's just this extremely peaceful country, that all of the emergency responders would be sent to the site of the bombing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So Anders was counting on the fact that all the emergency first responders would be so distracted by the bomb that he could really go to a second location and carry out a second attack within a really short time period.
So is that the Prime Minister's second attack or is it another bomb? Actually, just tell me.
So he was right, of course. Every single first responder that was available immediately flooded the scene. So there was really, no one back at a station, no one doing any patrols. Everybody was at the scene of the explosion.
Yeah, because you have a lot of casualties and you want to have as many people as you can.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And so he was able to just be walking away from the scene, hail a cab, and head 20 miles north of Oslo to the island Utoya that we were talking about earlier. And the island was in the middle of a lake, and all of the Labour Party kids were there. So the island itself is less than 24 acres. So that's about 5 football fields wide and half that in width. It's pretty small. So around 5 p.m., he arrives at the shore of the lake dressed as a policeman wearing a full uniform. And he quickly flashes these fake credentials to a ferry boat driver and says that he needs to go to Utoya Island immediately. So the island itself is about half a mile from the shore. And while Anders was headed over on the ferry, there were 600 campers on the island that were starting to get the news that the bombing had just happened. So they all have their cell phones and they're seeing, news of what's going on the mainland. Many of the campers' parents actually called their kids during this gap, and they expressed their gratitude that the children were on the island where it would be safe.
No. Oh my God.
I know. So Anders arrives on the island a little after 5 p.m. Within 30 seconds of hitting the dock, Anders pulls out an assault rifle and kills his first victim. He starts walking towards the cafeteria where, of course, a lot of the kids are gathered, discussing the bombing. The kids see him approaching and they kind of breathe a sigh of relief, like a police officer is here. They think that this heavily armed guy is going to be there to protect them, So he calls a small group of kids over to him, and I don't really know exactly what he said, but as the kids were walking over, he opens fire on this group.
Mm-hmm.
As he was shooting into the crowd, he was also taking the time to shoot the injured kids on the ground a second or third time to ensure that there was the highest number of casualties. And you often see in mass shootings that it'll, the perpetrator will just spray into the crowd and then walk away. Yeah. And Anders was very intent on having a high number of casualties. So that's why he was going in for multiple shots on every victim. So, of course, pandemonium erupts. There's a ton of kids that are taking off in every direction and running for cover. But we're talking about a camp with just a ton of open nature. There's just, there's trees here and there, but a lot of it is open fields in the middle.
So where do you run?
Right, exactly. So there's really also only very few structures on the camp because a lot of the kids were staying in tents. So it's not like it was cabins and cabins and cabins and, just different places indoors. A lot of it was outdoors. So there was a lot of trouble for the kids finding somewhere to hide, anywhere to find safety. It just...
Yeah, tent's not going to protect you.
Right. And even for the kids that were close enough to quickly get to a structure, there was a ton of open space between them also. So they would have to be open and vulnerable to an attack, to get to safety. So as the kids were hiding, Anders went to what they referred to as Tent City, where a lot of the kids slept, and started looking in the individual tents.
I hate this guy so much right now. Oh my goodness. Whew.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Oh man.
I know. It's just a devastating story.
Absolutely.
So he would look into the individual tents and open fire on any tent where there was a person inside. And bystanders have said that they could see tents turning red from the inside as the victim's blood splatter was hitting the tent walls. So he was walking one to one by one, opening the flaps, opening fire, and other kids could see the tent turning red. So the campers continued to run around the island. They were trying to find hiding spots. Some of the kids were stacked laying on top of each other with the intention of protecting their friends that were below them. And others were doing a similar thing, but they were hiding under bodies and playing dead, basically.
Oh, under dead bodies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of bad too, because he said he was going back in to do the second shot.
Right.
Which that's a tough decision to make.
Right. To just invest in this is my tactic. I'm playing dead.
Yeah.
And you don't know
when
that he's coming around specifically doing multiple shots on the same victim.
That's hard.
Yeah. So some kids recall that he looked eerily calm and just completely expressionless during the attacks. And others observed him kind of cheering or celebrating as he shot certain kids. So he would be really stoic, and then he would get maybe a shot that he thought was very difficult and celebrate it. It was so fucking awful. Around 5:20, as the kids are finding hiding spots, they're also reaching out to loved ones and emergency services on the mainland and alerting them of what's going on the island.
Yeah, forget the bombing. Not forget the bombing, but take half the people.
Yeah, we need help here. Yeah.
Because it was 3:30 when the bombing was, so it's only 2 hours.
Yeah. But they're still trying to assess that crazy situation.
Yeah.
And now the mainland is getting news of what's going on. So a news helicopter heads towards the island, and what they see is that there's a bunch of kids desperately swimming away from the island. But they can also see Anders going to the shore and picking off kids in the water.
No way.
Yeah.
I don't know what the water's like in Norway either.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, the swim to shore was really awful. It was a half mile, like I said, but it was freezing cold water.
Yeah, it couldn't have been tropical. That's
right.
That's awful.
So many of the kids were also weighed down by their outfits because, you swim in a bathing suit because it's light. So they were having trouble swimming because it was just heavy. They were wearing full clothes, some of them jackets or sweaters or whatnot.
Yeah. Dude, wet jeans are the worst.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So they were having a lot of trouble swimming. And also, some of these kids had already been shot or been injured kind of running away from the scene. So it was extremely difficult for the kids who were swimming to make it to the other side. Many of the kids who attempted the swim actually turned around and headed back to the island after they kind of panicked and realized that they weren't going to make it.
Well, you're not going to... Well, oh, man, that's a tough decision. Oh, my gosh.
I know.
Poor kid.
I know. So at this point, a few of the residents that lived on the shore of the lake on the other side started getting in their boats and trying to pick up some of these kids that were swimming and bring them back to safety.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So back in Oslo, emergency services were completely overwhelmed dealing with the bombing. And although they were trying to send responders to the island, it's really hard to take police and paramedics to an unknown situation when they have this horrific scene in front of them. And it's really like they couldn't know the severity of what was going on the island, you know? So how do you choose when you don't know, you don't have all the information?
Yeah.
You know? So because transportation was extremely interrupted by the bombing, cops really couldn't get to the scene very fast. It was said that they didn't have a helicopter either, so going by air wasn't an option. So they had to drive, but the whole city was really shut down by the attack. So the cops couldn't get anywhere. So it took them a full hour and a half to get to the camp.
Oh my God. Okay,
Yes.
let's all load up on the news helicopter and just attach
Right?
some guns and just start shooting him.
If the media has a helicopter, get in there. I
Yeah.
mean, you can volunteer your resources.
Absolutely.
You know? It's just unbelievable.
Kinda
But
like
it took them an hour and a half. That's crazy for the kids to just be sitting there like that.
Kind of like how when people just film something instead of intervening, you know?
Exactly. Oh my God. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the police arrived eventually, an hour and a half later, of course, Anders was dressed in this police uniform. So many of the kids who saw the police as they were arriving on the island thought that additional attackers had arrived.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How traumatic.
I know. So some of the kids even started grabbing rocks and throwing them at the cops as they were arriving on the island.
And the cops don't understand.
Right. Yeah,
Oh,
they don't
man.
know what's going on. So once they realized that the cops were actually there to help and they were only focused on finding the assailant, everything kind of calmed down and they approached Anders specifically. They found him in an open clearing and Anders immediately put his hands up and surrendered without incident.
Because he, like you said, he knew he was going to be taken in. And
Right.
He
And
expected
he wanted to
broken free.
survive. And yeah, that was part of his goal. Yeah. Anders later claimed that he had attempted to call the cops 10 times while on the island with the intention of surrendering, but he couldn't get through because all the lines were jammed up, you know? But he was easily apprehended and taken into custody without any incident. He didn't shoot at the police or anything like that. So first responders began gathering survivors and attending to all the injured kids on the island. And then the local residents that came from the shore that were on their boats were also gathering the kids that were in the water. Many of the kids who died in the water began washing up on the beach. Yeah. In total, there were 69 casualties on the island. Most of the victims were between 14 and 18 years old, and a couple of them were just adults that worked there.
69 casualties, dude.
Yeah.
I think I specifically asked you if there were a bunch of kids dying in this episode because I was PMSing.
Yes, you did. I'm really sorry.
That's a lot of fucking kids,
It
dude.
is. Yeah. It's actually the worst mass shooting by a person acting alone in the entire world.
No way.
Yeah, because most of the time these attacks that actually have a lot of casualties are committed by multiple people.
Totally.
Yeah.
Man, and you just think about like schools too. That's when you're talking about coverage. People have places to hide and
Right.
different sections.
But here in this
buildings.
situation, you can't go into a classroom. There's nowhere to go. There was a couple kids that recall going into cabins and finding various hiding spots, but most of them were just stuck outside trying to just get off the island or find somewhere to just crouch behind.
So the 69 plus the 8 from the bombing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Before they could even begin questioning Anders, he started panicking that he might die of dehydration. Since, of course, he'd taken that combination of ephedrine and caffeine and aspirin, he felt really dehydrated. And he put all the focus on himself. Like, I'm going to die of dehydration. You need to take care of me, basically.
His first name, I'm so thirsty.
Yes. Yes. A
Oh my
fucking
God.
asshole. Yeah. So he was given a soda before the interrogation and he calmed down. That's all it took. He just needed to know that basically they were going to attend to his needs. Like, it was just an attention thing. It was just bullshit. It was a power play, you know?
Mm-hmm. Which he thinks he's in control, but the cops are like, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But almost immediately after the detectives began their questioning, he became preoccupied with another issue. He had a cut on his finger.
Oh, he has a boo-boo?
Right.
Oh, his little fingy hurts.
Well, here's the thing. The cut actually came from a piece of skull that had projected off of one of the kids, and it had cut his finger. Yeah. I hate this guy so much. And he claimed that he lost a lot of blood from this fucking cut on his finger, and that he was going to pass out and he couldn't answer any more questions until he got first aid because his wound was too severe.
For someone that is, I just imagine him yoked up on steroids,
right?
Crying about a paper cut.
Yes.
Not a paper cut, but I'm just assuming
no, yeah.
so small.
I mean, it was a 5 millimeter cut. I mean, it was so tiny.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, but of course, they're trying to get all this information out of him. So they're trying, they have to be accommodating or whatever.
They brought in a doctor. And they're like, we got you, dude.
They gave him first aid. I mean, it's fucking crazy. So they, put a fucking
Play the role.
Toy Story Band-Aid on him and made him feel better. And then they resumed the interrogation. But it's worth pointing out that he was doing these little kind of power struggles of like, you need to take care of me. I'm more important than these, 70 kids that I just murdered.
Do you think that has to do with him being a victim as a child and just playing the victim? Or is it just a way of control?
I think it's just control, narcissism, self-centeredness.
Okay. Makes sense.
Because he does believe that even though we from the outside are like, this guy's a mass murderer, in his mind, he's a political hero.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, I, the political hero, need to be taken care of. I'm a bigger priority than these innocent victims because he doesn't see them as innocent victims.
The Labor Day party kids.
Yeah. Yep. So once they resumed the interrogation, got him taken care of, he confessed immediately. And he told the detectives that the purpose of his attack was to save Norway and Western Europe from this Muslim takeover that he claimed was happening. He also said that the Labour Party, quote, had to pay the price for letting down Norway and the Norwegian people. Anders told both police and his lawyers that the attack was absolutely necessary for his cause. And he never expressed any remorse. So after the interrogation, he was placed under arrest and they began taking pictures of his injuries to gather forensics and get a bigger picture of the events that happened. So he was standing in the room with these uniformed men, kind of taking off his clothes and getting them into evidence. And he eventually was down to his underwear. At which point he started flexing and posing and trying to look macho.
Oh my God.
So he acted like they were having a photo shoot, really.
He's voguing, like
he
striking
was.
a pose. Like that's, oh man.
He was doing these classic bodybuilder poses, and he was trying to make himself look as muscular as possible. Once the photo shoot was over, he was transported to Oslo. And as they gathered information of who he was and everything and traced everything back and executed all their search warrants, they also took down his video from YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah. On the 25th of July, Anders was charged with violating paragraph 147A of the Norwegian Criminal Code, which reads, destabilizing or destroying basic functions of society and creating serious fear in the population. both of which are considered acts of terrorism in Norwegian law.
Wait, so they don't, that was his charge? Like, is that, because here we do
Well,
like.
yeah, no, he was charged with murder and all sorts of stuff.
Okay, but that's a different.
As far as classifying the attacks,
Okay.
as far as terror,
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So Anders' lawyer maintains that the crime itself is actual proof that Anders is insane. He was trying to get him off on insanity, basically. But many people argued that he seems incredibly aware and sane apart from just having extremist views. So, of course, the court ordered some psychological testing, and the initial psychiatric evaluation concluded that Anders suffered from paranoid schizophrenia. However, they got a second opinion. And the second review diagnosed him as dissocial personality disorder and narcissistic traits, which seems much less severe,
True. Anything schizophrenic. But the narcissistic, aspect of it, that makes more sense to me.
It does seem like it fits a little bit better. So the court ruled that he was competent to stand trial and sane, and that he could face the charges, basically. So the trial started, and Anders gave some testimony himself, and people said that he gave this play-by-play of everything that happened that day without any expression. He had no emotion about taking the lives of so many people. Then when it came time for some of the survivors to give their testimony, he also had no expression, no emotion, no guilt or anything.
I think anything that would strengthen his case for his lawyers is like, if he's just testifying with
Right.
nothing, like, isn't that proving that there's no remorse, he would have some type of psychological disorder?
Yeah.
Personality disorder?
Yeah, and I think that they just claimed it was a personality disorder more than him being completely criminally insane.
Okay.
I guess it's a severity issue. I don't know.
So you don't go to jail if it's severe.
Right.
Or you just go to an institution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So during the testimony of the survivors, he had nothing. However, everyone else in the court, even the judge, was crying during their testimony.
Oh my goodness.
I know. The court also heard reviews of autopsy reports and some testimony from medical examiners. And one of the things that really stood out was a detail about a girl whose lips remained completely intact, even though she was shot in the mouth, which showed that Anders looked her in the eye, basically, and pulled the trigger at an extremely close range while she was actually screaming or asking for mercy, basically.
Whoa.
Yeah. So after all that just heavy emotional testimony, closing arguments were given on June 22nd of 2012. On August 24th, he was found both sane and guilty of murdering 77 people and committing these acts of terror. He was given a 21-year sentence that can be extended indefinitely as long as he's believed to be still a danger to society, basically.
Okay, so they have weirder sentences like that, right?
They do. So basically, it's similar to having parole, where every, let's say, 5 years or something, they'll review his case and see if he's still dangerous. But actually, this 21 years with this, possibility of, quote, parole would be Norway's maximum sentence. So he actually received the max penalty for that country.
It's just a ridiculous max sentence.
It's just it's so fucking low.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah.
because I guess if you don't have any crazy shit like this.
Yeah. Then a life sentence doesn't exist, I guess.
Oh my God.
Yep. So Anders announced after the sentencing that he didn't recognize the legitimacy of the court itself and therefore couldn't accept the decision.
Good for you, buddy.
Right?
No one cares.
So he says that he can't appeal the decision either because basically that would legitimize the authority of the court that he didn't believe in. So after a while in prison, he announced that he was suing the government due to his prison conditions. And he made a list of accusations, which at first sound reasonable. And it also kind of makes sense that corrections officers might be a little bit more harsh to him than other prisoners because of the severity of what he's done, right? So you would think that maybe he would be basing these claims on some abuses that he experienced while in custody. So first, he claimed that he had excessive solitary confinement and that it was a violation of his human rights, and he asserted that he'd been subjected to degrading treatment. But then he expanded on what this degrading treatment was. And as he continued his list, it became clear that he was just being an asshole, basically.
They didn't have soy milk?
Right. I mean, it was similar to kind of what he had done in the interrogation with just kind of having these power plays and being selfish and thinking he should be treated as a hero instead of a typical prisoner.
They're all out of gushers.
Right. So he complained that, just to list a couple things that are extremely superficial or whatnot. He complained about the fact that his game console hadn't been properly upgraded from PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3.
Who the fuck gave him a...
Right? You should have nothing.
He is in a 4x4 cell, which is also his bathroom.
Right?
And kitchen.
Yeah. He also complained that he was issued an ergonomically incorrect rubber pen that caused him hand cramps. He said, quote, "If it were theoretically possible to develop rheumatism, I am convinced that this rubber pen would be capable of causing it. It is a nightmare of an instrument, and I am frustrated by its use. The fact that I must therefore envision a future with nothing more than a dysfunctional rubber pen appears therefore as an almost indescribable manifestation of sadism."
Oh, he's such a drama queen.
Yes. Yeah. Fuck this guy so much. So fucking much.
He could finger paint his way to telling a story.
With his own poop or something.
Exactly.
So because Anders believes that he's a political figure and author, he said that he can't bear to not have access to a reasonable pen because this is, his writings are extremely important and important to not only him, but the country, basically.
Totally.
Yep. So in 2016, the trial began for Anders to fight the Norwegian Correctional Service over his prison conditions. So after a bit of a fight, the court ruled that the prison had not violated his human rights. None of his accusations were found to be true. And the Supreme Court upheld the decision after Anders appealed. So there's no sign that Anders has changed at all or that he feels any remorse. And he's just focusing on self-pity.
And just complaining about everything. I really wish they gave him one of those little clicky pencils. And just
constant lead breaking,
like half that, like cut all the leads in half, so it's only just constant and just no eraser.
No eraser.
I fucking hate this guy.
I know. Yeah, he's the worst. He's
I
awful.
wonder when he's gonna be up for parole, and I hope he gets another 21 years. Because he was relatively young. He was young. He'll be in there.
In his 30s and with a 20-year sentence. So he's still going to be really young when he comes up for parole, basically. Yeah.
Damn. Well, fuck you, Anders.
Yep. So that's the story of Anders Breivik.
Oh, man.
And I don't know. I'm sure that other people that are European listeners probably know more about the case, but in America, we don't know that much. So I figured it would be a good one to cover.
I love the story. It's great. It was very sad. I mean, it was very sad, but your research is awesome. And
I just try and put myself in the shoes of those kids, and it just breaks my heart, the kind of terror that they went through for hours. Yeah. That's unreal. And there's, a couple documentaries and media coverage that interview the kids and what their experience was like, and the various hiding places that they went to and various things that they saw while the attack was taking place. It's just so heavy. So it's a sad one. It's a really sad one. I'm sorry. But that's the end of our YouTube murder, so we don't have to hear about these assholes for another week.
It's just really the narcissist.
I feel kind of relieved to not have to deal with this narcissistic personality shit.
No women on there.
No.
I didn't see any.
All dudes.
Not
I know.
that-
If you Google these YouTube killers and try and find lists, it's all men.
Yeah. And it's not
And so many of them focus on anti-feminist stuff. Yeah.
And just all the narcissistic traits and...
It's crazy.
And they're all just extremist views.
Political, anti-feminist, narcissism, all themes of the YouTube murders, for sure.
Did you see any of his video? And I'm sure like some people...
No?
Okay.
Some stuff is just, it's too much for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch. I listened to the interviews with the kids and stuff, but some of the footage and whatnot, cell phone videos of things going on, I didn't watch any of that.
Oh, I'm going to do it tonight.
I can't.
I
I
gotta
just
cry.
don't have it in me. So on that note, you want to thank some Patreon people?
Yes.
So we wanted to say thank you to Michelle, Kendra, Kim, Jill, and Chandra.
Michelle, Kendra, kill. Michelle, Kendra, Jill, Chandra, Kim.
Yep.
We were just talking about Eminem too.
Right? So thank you guys for your Patreon support.
You guys are awesome.
Again, if you wanted to get on our Patreon, the link is in the show notes. And we have other merch items from Threadless if you want to get those too. So I think that's pretty much it. I need to go have some crying time or something.
Yeah, and Denny's too, right?
Oh my God, I need to fuck up some scrambled eggs right now.
But did you know what letter we're on next, right?
I don't know the alphabet.
I'm going to let you know.
I can only say it backwards because I've done field sobriety tests.
Well, it's C, so.
You're so smart.
But we are on the last letter. And
the last letter. It's Z.
It is Z.
I posted on our social media asking people for suggestions because Z is a really hard letter to do. And people have been coming up with some great ideas, and it's awesome.
Zebra murders.
Right?
That's going to Africa.
I don't know. It's been really awesome to read some of the ideas that people had. And then other people are just throwing names and cases.
Yeah.
And I feel like a dick because I'm like, hey, we do subjects, not individual
Specific
cases or individual names.
Yeah.
But in a pinch, it's kind of like if I can't really find enough subjects, or cases for one subject, I should say, we would have to do just people with a name that begin with Z. So, but I don't think it'll come to that because people threw out some great suggestions.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to pick some because we did do Queensland, and that's a little bit more specific than like a but that has an umbrella of lots of people rather than just one case.
Queensland's awesome.
Oh man, I miss Africa.
Those are some of my favorites.
Australia. I miss Australia. What is going on with not smoking weed, dude? I am worse.
You honestly seem like a different person today.
I don't like it.
You seem like your memory's better, but you're way out of it and way quiet.
Isn't that weird?
It's very strange.
And I'm never
I don't think I've ever met
this
version of
I
Kelly.
don't like it. Can we go smoke weed? Can you watch me smoke weed outside? I have a half a joint in my room.
True crime and smoke a bowl and chill?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go do that.
I'm going to go cry about kids after too, so.
Bye.
Bye.
And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance. And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.